After 19 years of being single, I finally learned that singleness isn't loneliness. And I finally understand what love is, the purpose of relationships, and God's timing. And I understand that all of this must be accomplished through. My last actual full relationship, it was about 5 years, ended in 2005. He was a wonderful man. He was about 9 years older than me, and we met while I was working third shift in a grocery store. Um, he was just so amazed, you know, here's this young girl working third shift because he works third shift, and um, I was like, this is like unusual. And we hit it off actually over a box of cereal. I had asked him about it, and we struck up a conversation, and that was that. You know, um, remember I said previously in previous videos, it was I never had the guy that like I've seen a guy like, ooh, I want him, I want to date him. It was never like that. I always just fell into a relationship, and he was close enough to me, like, oh, maybe this could be it.
I think he could really be the one.
'Cause he was wonderful. He was wonderful, a really nice person. He was a nice guy, and I was the typical good girl, back then. But after 5 years, I will tell anyone this: while you're in your up until you're like 28, 29, you're still developing who you want to become. But once you hit 30, you start knowing your likes and dislikes, and that you are actually becoming the person that you are meant to be. And so he had already hit that. He already, knew who he was and what he wanted in a relationship and in a woman. But I I was learning that I was becoming who I was meant to be. And by me becoming this new person, I was embracing who she was because, I liked the person that, I was becoming. I was grown now. I'm a grown woman now. I'm not a child. I'm not a little girl. And he was still in love with that little girl next door. That wasn't me anymore. And to be fair, I had to I had to leave, and it hurt. It hurt him. It hurt me, especially because to be truthful, I wasn't honest. I did some things. I fell in love with uh, Devin, which we will talk more about later on. But he was like, yeah, Devin. I got to talk about it. But basically, I was looking for something more. Um, and then that more ended up being a toxic situationship with Devin. Lord, I had convinced myself that he was it. He was the man I was looking for. He was, I wanted to have his babies. I wanted to get married. He was it. That was it. Even though he ain't never promised me not one thing on thing. He ain't never even said that we was in a relationship. He ain't never even said anything like that to me. But I was ready. I was like, oh, this the man I want to be with. And let me tell you something. That if I back in the day, if I had tried, I'm pretty sure I could have got anybody that I wanted. It not to be cocky or anything like that. But if I say, oh hey, let's go out, there were plenty of guys who were like, oh yeah, sure. But Devin was something different. I I was never the chaser. I was never the one chasing. You know, every man always came to me. Devin had me chasing him. And Lord, I can laugh about it now because I see the silliness of it. But I lost so much of myself trying to force something that wasn't meant to be with him. Y'all, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm going to go deeper. I promise you. I'm going to go deeper into Devin. In the next video, when I talk about the emotional abyss. So get ready. It's about to get juicy. I promise. It's about to get juicy. But I'm talking about that to talking about, what I learned being single for these 19 years. So Devin had me losing so much of myself. I done lost my place. But so after Devin, after that toxic situationship ended, I everything kind of slowed down for me. I was like from I think like 2008 to now, I went on maybe 3 dates. Well, my last date had to be, yeah, that had to be 2015 when I went out with the guy with the tractor who drove the truck, whatever. So that had to be like 2015. Okay, so we're going to go back to 2008 when at that time, my best friend at the time, she had told me about a woman because me and her were like in the same boat. We were both single for a long time and we wanted to find the one. And so she had told me about a woman who had prayed for her husband and then she wrote a letter to God about what she wanted her husband to have, all the qualities that she wanted her husband to have. So I mean, this is a detailed letter that she wrote. She wrote everything down. And then she put it in her Bible and prayed. And it was like not even a year. This woman met her husband and they were married. And so me and my best friend was like, oh, that's. So we sat down and rewrote our letters. Crickets. Okay. Like nothing. I didn't hear anything from God. It was years, years, and years. Nothing. I was like, well, this didn't work. And I held on to the letter for that long. But and for a while, I was distracted from my singleness because, I had went back to school. I was working like a 55-hour a week job and going to night school at the same time. And if anybody has ever taken history classes in college, you know that the papers you write, I mean, I was writing like upwards of 10 to 40 pages like per class. So it was a lot to take my mind off of this stuff. So that was fun. But there was like this one cute guy in one of my classes that I thought, we could have hit it off because he was checking me out. And I was like, okay, I like him. Maybe we could do something. But this dude never, ever, ever made a move. So I let him go. So I was like, okay, here I am. I'm still single. And then the loneliness started to creep in.
Loneliness.
And even though I felt the loneliness, there was still something deep inside of me telling me that you are being held for something greater. And I held on to that. I was holding on to that. You see, what it was, I had to start in order to get out of my single season. The thing was, I had start developing a relationship with God. I was ignoring God, even though I was living a good, even though I was a good person and not hurting people, not basically obeying the 10 Commandments. You know, that's not all God wanted from me. That's not all God wants from you. He wanted a relationship. So he had to start. He started early with me. You know, I always, I had always grew up in the church. I was always a church girl. But past experiences in the church started, started taking me away. Because like I said before, I didn't have a great home life. My mom was great. Dad, okay. Um, and so it was like, and then I grew up as apostolic, apostolic, mm, holiness apostolic Christian. So, the kind where you can't wear pants, and it was like so many rules and so much fear and stuff. You can't wear pants. You couldn't put up Christmas decorations. Women were not allowed to preach. Women were not allowed to get on the pulpit. Lord, I made one mistake when I was little, and I got on the pulpit by accident, and that was like something that traumatized me. So it was a lot to with me going to church. And then my the pastor, it's hard for me to say this, but the pastor of my childhood, you're not supposed to speak negatively of a man, of someone who's anointed by God, and this man is deceased. So I would just say that he was very traumatizing for me. And so, and I didn't view all pastors like that. It was him, just him. But when we when I was little and he got out of our lives and then my dad was out of our lives, we kind of all just stopped going to church. And I just was like, as I grew older, I was like, well, I'll just, God knows I love him. I know God. I believe in God. I'm baptized and I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So I'm going to heaven. I'm fine. Um, but after Devin, I felt like a pull for me to go back to church because I had made a comment. I said, well, God, I guess, the Bible is outdated. Maybe I didn't get that memo because it doesn't really seem like people are living by by the rules and regulations anymore. Everybody is free. So, we're not doing this Bible thing anymore. Honey child, let me tell you, God got me hooked up to a pastor so quick, so fast, in a hurry, my head nearly spun. Okay, he said, "But baby, come here, come back to church." And so God kept drawing me closer and closer to Him, and I still wasn't developing the relationship. I still wasn't getting it the way He wanted me to at the time. Um, but what I did understand was that He wasn't punishing me with being single. He was preparing me. And as I was preparing for being, as I was being prepared, I felt I was being prepared to, okay, once you bring my husband to me, then, that's it. We're going to go and live life. God's like, no, baby. Now, within the past year, I finally understand. Finally understand that, yes, in Genesis, if it's Genesis 1:26, we are to have dominion. We are to be fruitful and multiply. And marriage has a purpose to advance the kingdom. But first, in my single season, God is my husband. And he he wanted my attention. And I wasn't giving my attention to God. And because I wasn't giving my attention to God, I was giving my attention to my situation and to the things that I wanted. And He wasn't giving it to me, so I had no use for Him. So He had to get my attention in a way that shattered my life in 2023 in a way that I never knew was possible. Things have happened that have stretched me, that have pulled me, that have made me grow into a warrior for Christ that I never saw myself as being. And even doing this right now, this video right now, is something that it's so out of my comfort zone. But I know it's what I need to do. God now. I'm not on a mission to end my singleness. When God says it's time to bring me and my husband together, then that will happen. But for right now, I'm working. And that's where you need to be. So chat below and let me know if you have found your purpose and how are you developing your relationship with God. I will talk more about the life altering change that happened to me in 2023 in the future videos. Okay, Boo Bears, thank you so much for listening to me today. I love you and hope to see you. No, you go, come back. Come back. Come back. Y'all don't want to miss these stories. I'm telling you, it's going to get good. I'm telling you, this is juicy stuff. Bye.